Friedrich Nietzsche was not a man who tried to comfort the world. He was a man who looked directly at pain, loneliness, and human weakness, and refused to look away. His words have survived more than a century, not because they sound beautiful, but because they feel uncomfortably true. Why do some people endure suffering and grow stronger, while others endure the same pain and quietly disappear? Why does meaning matter more than happiness when life becomes heavy? Why does loneliness often follow those who think deeply? And why does avoiding pain sometimes damage us more than pain itself? This video is not here to motivate. It is here to slow you down and to listen. This is not a video to watch quickly. It is meant to be listened to slowly, almost like a quiet conversation at the end of a long day. What follows is not a lecture and not a collection of famous quotes arranged to impress. Each sentence you are about to hear is a fragment of lived experience, shaped by suffering, solitude, and long reflection. We will move through these words one by one. Pause with them. Let them echo before you decide what they mean to you. And we begin with a question that sits beneath almost every human struggle. Why do we keep going at all? He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. Nietzsche is not saying that life becomes easier once you find meaning. He is saying something more honest and more difficult. Life may remain painful, confusing, and unfair, but meaning changes how that pain is carried. The why he speaks of is not a grand mission or a dramatic life purpose. It is often quiet. It can be as small as a responsibility, a connection, a promise you made to yourself, or a sense that your existence still matters, even when nothing feels right. Without a why, suffering feels random and cruel. With a why, suffering still hurts, but it stops feeling pointless. Many people endure things they never expected to endure. A job that drains them, a long season of loneliness, a relationship that slowly dissolves, or a period where waking up already feels exhausting. Some people break quickly, others somehow keep going. The difference is rarely strength or optimism. It is usually this silent question in the background. Why am I still here? And why am I still trying? When that question has no answer, even small problems feel unbearable. But when there is a reason, even an imperfect one, endurance turns into movement. Pain becomes something you pass through, not something that defines you. This sentence resonates because it does not shame weakness. It does not demand positivity. It acknowledges that there are moments when survival itself feels like work. Nietzsche does not tell people to avoid pain. He suggests that meaning is what keeps pain from hollowing a person out completely. When suffering has a reason, it no longer feels like a personal failure. It becomes part of a larger inner process, quiet, heavy, but human. When life becomes difficult, what are you actually enduring it for? Is your why something you chose consciously or something placed on you by others? If your current struggle had meaning, would it feel different? Or would you still want it to end immediately? Finding meaning does not remove pain. It only changes what pain does inside a person. And that leads to a more uncomfortable question. If pain does not disappear, does it always weaken us? Or does it sometimes reshape us in ways we do not recognize at first? Nietzsche explored this idea directly, through a sentence that is often quoted, often misunderstood, and rarely examined slowly. What does not kill me makes me stronger. This is one of Nietzsche's most famous sentences and also one of the most misunderstood. He is not saying that suffering automatically improves people. Pain does not magically turn into strength. What Nietzsche is pointing to is something quieter. When a person survives something difficult, they do not remain exactly the same. They are altered, sometimes hardened, sometimes sharpened, sometimes more aware of their limits. Strength here is not about becoming fearless or invincible. It is about learning what can be endured and realizing that one has already endured more than expected. Many people carry invisible scars. A rejection that still lingers, a failure that changed how they see themselves, a loss that quietly reorganized their priorities. These experiences do not always make people happier, but they often make people clearer about what matters, clearer about what no longer deserves their energy, clearer about what they can survive without collapsing. Sometimes strength looks like setting boundaries. Sometimes it looks like leaving. Sometimes it looks like staying, but no longer pretending. This sentence resonates because it gives dignity to survival. It does not glorify pain, but it refuses to treat suffering as meaningless. Nietzsche suggests that pain leaves a mark, but that mark can become structure, not beauty, not comfort, structure. And structure is what allows a person to stand differently in the future, not untouched, but more grounded. What has shaped you more than you like to admit? Did your hardest experiences make you bitter, or did they quietly clarify what you will no longer tolerate? If strength is not about becoming tougher, then what kind of strength are you actually building? Surviving pain can change a person, but surviving often comes with a cost that few people talk about. As awareness grows, something else tends to appear alongside it. Distance from others, from easy belonging, from simple conversations. And this raises another question, one that Nietzsche understood deeply. Why does depth so often walk hand in hand with loneliness? The loneliness of the great is not accidental. Nietzsche is not glorifying loneliness. He is explaining it. This sentence suggests that deep loneliness often appears not because something is wrong, but because something has changed. As a person begins to think independently, question familiar ideas, or live more honestly, they slowly drift away from easy belonging. Loneliness, in this sense, is not chosen on purpose. It emerges as a consequence of seeing differently. The great Nietzsche refers to are not necessarily famous or powerful. They are people who have stepped away, mentally or emotionally, from the comfort of shared illusions. Many people experience this quietly. They outgrow conversations that once felt natural. They feel disconnected in rooms where they used to belong. They stop pretending to agree just to keep peace. This can feel confusing and painful. Loneliness arrives not because of rejection, but because alignment has shifted. Often, people assume something is wrong with them when this happens. Nietzsche offers another interpretation. Perhaps nothing is broken. Perhaps this is the cost of becoming more conscious. This sentence resonates because it validates a quiet grief many people carry. The grief of feeling alone even when surrounded by others. Nietzsche does not offer comfort in the form of reassurance. He offers understanding. He suggests that loneliness is sometimes the shadow cast by depth. Not everyone who is alone is growing, but many who are growing will pass through loneliness. Have you ever felt lonely, not because you were rejected, but because you no longer fit where you once belonged. At what point did your silence become a sign of awareness rather than withdrawal? Is your loneliness something you need to escape, or something asking to be understood? Loneliness can feel heavy, but it also creates space. And in that space, something unexpected often appears. Not clarity, not peace, but inner chaos. Nietzsche believed that this inner disorder was not a weakness to be eliminated, but a condition for creation. To understand that idea, we move to one of his most poetic and misunderstood statements. One must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star. Nietzsche is not praising confusion for its own sake. He is pointing to something deeply human. Growth rarely comes from inner order alone. Chaos, in this sense, does not mean destruction or loss of control. It refers to emotional conflict, unanswered questions, contradictions, and inner tension. The parts of ourselves that do not fit neatly together. Nietzsche suggests that creativity, change, and transformation often arise from this inner unrest, not from perfect balance. A dancing star is not born from comfort. It emerges from friction. Many people feel uneasy when they experience inner chaos. They rush to fix it. They distract themselves. They label it as weakness or instability. But consider moments when your life truly shifted. They rarely came from calm certainty. They came from periods of confusion, restlessness, or emotional overload. Chaos shows up when something inside you no longer matches the life you are living. It is not a sign that you are broken. It is often a sign that something new is trying to take shape. This sentence resonates because it gives permission to be unfinished. It challenges the idea that we must feel clear before we move forward. Nietzsche reminds us that discomfort does not always need to be solved immediately. Sometimes it needs to be listened to. Inner chaos can be frightening, but it can also be fertile. Not everything that feels unstable is harmful. Some instability is the ground where growth begins. What parts of your inner chaos are you trying to silence too quickly? Have you mistaken discomfort for failure instead of seeing it as a signal? If your confusion had meaning, what might it be trying to create in you? Inner chaos often pushes people to change. But change brings another challenge: visibility. As soon as a person begins to move differently, live differently, or think differently, they are noticed, and not always with understanding. Nietzsche was deeply aware of this tension. He knew that those who move to their own rhythm are often judged by those who cannot hear the music, and those who were seen dancing were thought to be insane by those who could not hear the music. Nietzsche is describing a quiet but painful truth. People often judge what they do not understand. The dance here is not literal. It represents a way of living, thinking, or choosing that does not follow the familiar rhythm of society. When someone moves to a different inner tempo, those who cannot sense it often label it as wrong, strange, or irresponsible. Nietzsche is not encouraging rebellion for attention. He is pointing out how easily originality is mistaken for madness when it cannot be explained in simple terms. Many people experience this without naming it. They choose a slower life. They leave a path that looks successful from the outside. They value meaning over approval, and suddenly questions appear, concerned looks, unspoken judgment. Others may not hear the music guiding these choices, so they interpret movement as chaos. But often, what looks irrational from the outside is deeply intentional from within. This creates a quiet pressure, the pressure to explain oneself constantly, or to stop moving altogether just to feel accepted again. This sentence resonates because it names a familiar loneliness, not the loneliness of being alone, but the loneliness of being misunderstood. Nietzsche reminds us that not everyone is meant to understand every rhythm, and that clarity does not always arrive in the form of agreement. Sometimes, the most honest way to live feels isolating, not because it is wrong, but because it is rare. Have you ever been judged for a choice that felt deeply right to you? Did you stop dancing because others questioned your rhythm? How much of your life is shaped by what feels true to you? And how much by the fear of being misunderstood? Being misunderstood can slowly wear a person down. Over time, it raises another question, one more intimate than judgment. If approval fades and explanations grow tiring, what remains? Who are you when no one is applauding, criticizing, or watching closely? Nietzsche believed that this moment, when external voice is quiet, is where a person faces their most difficult task. Become who you are. This sentence is short, but it carries a lifelong task. Nietzsche is not saying that people should invent themselves from nothing. He is saying that most people already know, somewhere deep inside, who they are becoming. The difficulty is not discovering it. The difficulty is allowing it. Become who you are means shedding layers that were never truly yours. Expectations, borrowed identities, roles adopted to survive or to belong. It is not about ambition. It is about alignment. Many people live years performing a version of themselves that feels acceptable, but slightly false. They choose paths that make sense on paper. They say yes when they mean no. They delay their truth because it feels inconvenient. Over time, this creates quiet exhaustion. Not because life is hard, but because it is misaligned. Becoming who you are often looks less dramatic than people expect. It may mean simplifying rather than achieving, letting go rather than adding more, choosing honesty over comfort. This sentence resonates because it names a tension many people feel but struggle to articulate. The tension between the life they are living and the life they sense they are meant to live. Nietzsche does not promise ease. Becoming who you are often costs approval, certainty, and familiarity, but it also brings relief. The relief of no longer pretending. The relief of moving in a direction that feels internally coherent, even when it is quiet and unseen. Who are you becoming when no one is guiding your choices? Which parts of your life feel lived and which feel performed? If you stop trying to meet expectations, what version of yourself might finally emerge? Living in alignment brings clarity, but not simplicity. Even when a person becomes more honest with themselves, life remains imperfect. Nietzsche understood this well. He knew that those who live deeply are rarely comfortable and rarely rewarded in obvious ways. And with that understanding, he left behind a final quiet observation, one that reframes how we think about meaning, comfort, and belonging. In heaven, all the interesting people are missing. At first glance, this sentence sounds ironic, even playful. But beneath it lies a serious reflection on comfort and depth. Nietzsche is not mocking heaven or morality itself. He is questioning the idea that a meaningful life must always be safe, orderly, and approved. The interesting people he refers to are those who lived fully, people who questioned norms, took risks, contradicted themselves, and followed their inner truth rather than external rules. They are missing, not because they failed, but because they refused to live small. Many people are quietly torn between two desires: the desire to be good, accepted, and comfortable, and the desire to be honest, curious, and alive. Choosing safety often means choosing predictability. Choosing depth often means uncertainty. Nietzsche suggests that a life without friction, doubt, or inner struggle may look peaceful, but it may also lack vitality. Interesting lives are rarely neat. They are shaped by mistakes, detours, and moments of rebellion, not against others, but against inner stagnation. This sentence resonates because it gently challenges the fear of living incorrectly. It suggests that imperfection is not a flaw. It is evidence of engagement with life. Nietzsche is not telling people to chase chaos. He's reminding them that meaning often emerges from tension, not tranquility. A life that avoids all discomfort may feel safe, but it may also feel empty. And many people sense this long before they can explain it. Are you choosing comfort because it feels right? Or because it feels safe? What parts of yourself would have to disappear for your life to become perfectly acceptable? If meaning requires some risk, what are you currently avoiding? Nietzsche never offered a simple formula for happiness. What he offered instead was a way of seeing. Across these sentences runs a single thread. Life gains depth not by avoiding pain, confusion, or uncertainty, but by facing them honestly. Meaning is not found in perfection. It is shaped through endurance, loneliness, chaos, self-alignment, and the courage to live fully. And this brings us to the final reflection. Nietzsche never tried to offer comfort in the way people usually expect. He did not promise peace, balance, or certainty. What he offered instead was clarity, sometimes quiet, sometimes unsettling. Across these sentences, a pattern begins to emerge. Meaning is not something discovered once and held forever. It is something shaped slowly, through endurance, through isolation, through inner conflict, and through the courage to live honestly. Nietzsche reminds us that pain does not disappear when we understand it, but understanding changes how deeply pain controls us. Loneliness does not vanish when we grow, but it can become a space where clarity forms. Chaos does not mean failure. It can be the raw material of transformation. None of these ideas are meant to be quoted for inspiration. They are meant to be lived with, uncomfortably, imperfectly, and gradually. This is not a philosophy of escape. It is a philosophy of staying present with life as it is, without pretending it should be easier or cleaner than it is. Nietzsche does not ask whether life is fair. He asks whether life is being faced honestly. And perhaps that is the quiet challenge beneath all his words. Not to become stronger, happier, or more admired, but to become more truthful in how one stands inside their own life. These words were never meant to be admired from a distance. They were meant to be felt and questioned. Among everything you have just heard, which sentence stayed with you the longest? Not the one that sounded clever, but the one that quietly unsettled you. Why do you think it touched something personal? Are you currently enduring something without fully knowing your why? Or are you in a season of loneliness, confusion, or quiet change that now feels different after listening? There is no correct interpretation here, only honest ones. If you feel comfortable, share in the comments. Which idea resonated most with you, and where you find yourself in your own journey right now? Sometimes reflection deepens when it is shared. And sometimes reading another person's words helps us understand our own a little better. Take your time. And thank you for listening slowly.